everybody. Welcome back to our podcast. We have been taking a small hiatus because of lots of traveling and doctoral work. So, this is part 2 of our previous episode, and we are picking up talking about everyday narcissism and finishing out the chapters. So, if you haven't listened to the first episode, you may want to go back and do that first because we're jumping right in to midpoint of the conversation. So I hope you enjoy the rest of our podcast. Take care. And I had highlighted the section below what you just read. It's not wrong to feel or express anger. Anger only causes a problem when we hang on to it, stoke it, or express it disrespectfully. If we can explore it with curiosity, pay attention to what it's telling us, and then take positive action, we have used our anger wisely and well. And anger always lets you know that something is wrong. Perhaps someone is treating you disrespectfully. Maybe you're hurting. Maybe you're temporarily caught in EN. And when you feel anger rising up, it's important to notice it and for a short time, simply observe it. Then decide what isn't right and take action to address the issue. This will get you better results than perpetuating the anger or using it to distract yourself from what you feel beneath that anger.
Yeah.
I keep thinking the verse that Jesus said, in your anger, do not sin, keeps coming to mind. And this is breaking that down, which is very helpful. Like, that it's okay to be mad. And I think that's been the common misconception. I know in my own upbringing, that was one of the things. No, you can't talk to people like that, or you can't, lash out that way. Yes, you can. It's just, let's teach. And this is something we say in early childhood. Let's teach them ways to be angry that are not hurtful. And, go punch a pillow or, squeeze this stress ball or whatever it is. Scream into a pillow if you need to, but there are ways to release it, and it's important to release it, but ways
Before
that.
having a conversation. Because there are times like Jesus flipped tables.
Oh, yeah.
So why is he allowed to throw things, but we go around telling everybody else you can't do that?
Right. Yep. And I think that's the one thing and I bring that up to myself a lot too. Like, or, when other people are like, no, I'm not going to get mad about this. I'm like, well, if you feel it, you can. Like, if Jesus can flip a table, so can you. I have used that. Uh,
Mhm.
but it's just one of those things where and again, I think this is what you say too with the emotional brain versus the logical brain. You have to let it out before you can really tap into what the problem is. So, can I go into fear?
Yeah.
All right. So, by taking us out of our heart and into our thought. So, I'm sorry, I skipped. Fear is especially effective as a distractor. It can quickly and effectively remove us from almost any other feeling we don't want to deal with by taking us out of our heart and into our thought. The combination of fear, shame, and the 5 myths form the foundation of the most of our EN. All creatures, except for the very simplest ones, are born with an innate sense of fear, and this fear is profoundly useful. It has kept our species alive for thousands of years. However, this fear is the fear of death and physical harm, and it typically only arises in the face of real or potential danger. In contrast, when we use fear as a distractor, it is instead a fear of being, and there are bullet points here: rejected, inadequate or second rate, bad or wrong, unlikable or unlovable, not in control, embarrassed, alone, unattractive, stupid, judged and usually disapproved of, and looked down upon. We need our fear to protect us and to warn us of possible emotional or physical harm. However, if fear is only useful for a few moments at a time, fear is only useful for a few moments at a time. When we are not in some kind of real or possible danger, fear distracts us from the rest of our emotional life. It's hard for me to read this because I highlighted it so darkly. It blocks us from feeling what else is really going on for us emotionally, and it keeps us from feeling the pain of our EN. And when we stay in fear, we stop listening to our own heart, and we go off into our thoughts about what could happen. Fear has a way of taking over so that we are not paying attention. It replaces our ordinary day to day, moment by moment faith that all will be well.
So, neuroscientifically, your body responds to perceived fear or perceived danger and real danger the same way. So if I tell myself something is dangerous, my body will respond to it as if it actually is dangerous. So
Mhm,
speaking in public, danger, I could be rejected. So you go into fight or flight because you tell yourself that's an actual dangerous situation.
mhm,
So to overcome fear is one to face it. The more you face something and receive an alternative outcome versus the mind reading, future predicting, jumping to conclusions, cognitive distortion your narrative little brain is functioning in, um, you have to prove yourself wrong. And our ego, our everyday narcissism, our narcissistic tendencies don't ever want to be wrong. I don't want to prove myself wrong. I'm trying to prove myself right. Well, you
mm,
might be trying to prove yourself right in not a realistic, reality based scenario. So,
right. Why am I thinking of my fear of heights? This keeps coming up. It's one of those things where I'm like, I know that that is just if I could get past that fear that
well, if you go really, really high and you fall, you could die. Like that's a legit fear, right? That
right.
is dangerous.
Mhm.
It can be potentially dangerous. Um, so is it I don't want to stand on the top of a building and look over the edge because you don't have that high risk temperament? Or I can't even get in an elevator because what if it falls?
So it's interesting because it's more of the open space. I can see if I can see how high up I am and I don't have any walls around me, I panic. But elevators, airplanes, I'm fine. There's absolutely
That makes sense to me why you're so clumsy.
why.
Because you have a fear of open space.
Oh, that would make sense too.
So if
Yeah.
I'm grounded and I keep tripping on everything, I'm never going to learn that I have stability if I'm in a place where I don't have something to hold on to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that's been now if I'm walking like I've learned to become a lot more watch where you're going if it's like a sidewalk or a parking lot or whatever just because I've fallen so many times and tore up my ankles so many times. Um but yeah, I definitely there's a sense of not knowing how to navigate. Like if you think about those bridges that are glass bottoms, I'm paralyzed. I cannot walk across those. Um or being up in some of those high buildings that let you look down below. Can't do it. I'm like, I'm good. I'm just going to stand back.
You
So
can do that right there is why you have a fear of heights because you keep telling yourself you can't do it.
fair enough. I've done it before. I just don't like the feeling that I get. So I
So
choose.
that's a whole different story you're telling yourself though now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like doing that. It's uncomfortable, but I can. I'm not afraid of it.
Hmm.
I just prefer not to do it.
Yeah. That's true. And it's interesting because I mean, I'd like to get to the point where I can do things that involve height, like parasailing and those sort of thing. But
We're definitely going to be doing some of those things.
yeah, without a doubt. So
I have to do all these boring grounding things with you.
I'm I'm on the ground already. I got that part down, but it's when you take me up the stairs.
That's what I'm saying. Like I like to do like the zip lining and the walking across bridges and hiking in
Yeah.
dangerous
And
situations.
I want to do all those things. I think that's the thing I need to get mentally I need to get past the oh my gosh, I'm up so high and like that. Even there was one time we went it wasn't even it was snorkeling, it wasn't scuba diving, but my husband and I went to we were on a cruise to somewhere. I don't know what we embarked for one day and swam through this one little section and it was so deep down that I had like a panic attack and I had to get out. But it was something with depth perception that really throws me off. So,
How are you supposed to go snorkeling the black hole in Belize if
girl, I don't know. I want to though. I'm gonna have to
that's a need for control?
like how so?
Because if I'm walking and I'm not like when you're up high, you can't control what's going on below you.
Yeah, and I don't know if I get disoriented or what, if I have like a spatial issue, but like, so for example,
And could
I've,
you walk across it with your eyes shut?
yeah, probably could, yeah, because I can't see things moving around me. I can't see myself walking across nothing, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm walking through the air. And I think that's the same thing with being on an airplane. It doesn't scare me. I can even go up in my husband's two-seater plane. Um,
You need to get into some of that virtual reality where you're walking across a tightrope,
that's true.
just
We
seeing, just being in the sensation. So anytime you want to overcome fears like that, exposure therapy is the only thing that works. And so you have to create a fear hierarchy that says, this is the scariest thing in the whole world would be, walking across a bridge that's, 100 feet off the ground and looking down and walking across it. Um, that's scary. So then it would be starting with looking at things that would perceive that. And then how do you talk to yourself? How do I breathe through that? How do I control because it's all about your nervous system.
mm,
Your
mm,
nervous system is becoming dysregulated.
yep, yep, because my
How do
heart,
I now control my nervous system? So as I go up the ladder and I get higher and higher, I go up until I start to feel that little bit of anxiety kicking in. And then I keep my eyes open and I breathe through it to train my nervous system to regulate. I want to activate my parasympathetic nervous system.
so I need to find a staircase somewhere nearby or something. I don't even know. Go hiking. Maybe we need to go hiking. I don't know if you have any ridges where you are, but we have some caves and stuff, but
I mean, you could go like find a rock climbing wall, like an indoor rock climbing wall that you're attached to, and start climbing up it.
don't know where to find one of those. Well, OU has one. Maybe I could do that. I'd have to go with a bunch of other students, but
We
I
have
don't
the
know.
in Rapids.
Oh, do you?
Mhm.
Yeah, see, this is the kind of list I need to make, but I need to start researching it because 41, it's time to get over it.
Or you're going to be watching me do all these really cool, fun things on our vacations together, and you're going to be on the ground crying because you didn't get to do it.
No, that's not going to be the case. I'm determined to do it now. I have FOMO.
Well, that was when we were in Jamaica, and I was like, I want to do the rope or the zip lining, and you're like, I'm afraid of heights, and I was like, oh. When we did that stupid freaking bobsled ride, that was the dumbest thing ever.
It was stupid. I thought it was going to be a lot more exciting than that. You pick the activities next time. I'll just do them.
I'm gonna expose you. You're gonna get past your fears real fast.
No,
My
that's
problem is I don't have like I'm like a fearless individual. Like obviously I've done some really high risk things, like driving across Mexico by myself. But I mean, it's just whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I think, but I think I also just don't have those fears anymore because I worked through so much of my trauma and healing and went through the exposure therapy that I realized like at the end of the day, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen.
yep, yep. And I think I have I have that piece in a different way with like I don't know, just my daily life situations or just life happenings, but it's different when when I go to like these new experiences if it's something that maybe if it terrified me as a kid, maybe that's what that is, that I've
Joke
never.
factor.
Yeah. Right. I'm like, obviously I need some more practice with this, or to mentally prepare myself.
Mhm.
But
It is, like she said, fear is cognitive.
mhm,
Control your thoughts and fear will dissipate. It's all in your head. It literally is. I don't care. People can get offended by that. Like, I can't believe you're just going to say it's all in my head. It is. It's all in your freaking head. It just is.
yeah,
Your
yeah,
thoughts control your body.
they do. Yeah. I was afraid to go out to coffee with my one coworker a couple years ago and I did it. So, and now we're not besties, but we're civil, like,
Every time you see her, you're not avoiding her because avoidance is a negative reinforcer. And the more you avoid the thing that you're afraid of, the more afraid of it you will become.
right. Yep. And that's definitely, we were avoiding each other. So, up until one fateful day when I was just like, hey, do you want to go get lunch? And Yeah, she showed up 15 minutes late. I knew she was sitting in her office, like, just like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to do this? But it did happen and it was fine. But that was probably one of those pivotal moments where, and now like the people at work who I once had such beef with, or I had that conversation with one of them at the end of the school year last year, and she was kind of in awe of like how chill I was. She was expecting me to be like, like freezing up in front of her, and I didn't. So,
Well, you've come a long way then.
yep, yep. So, what comes after fear? Victim
People
energy.
pleasing.
Victim energy. So, I highlighted victim energy distracts us in three ways.
You're skipping people pleasing.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
Like subconsciously because that's your biggest struggle.
Oh, girl, it is. I did skip. Well, I didn't even highlight that section very much. Maybe I thought that was all fear. All right, so starting again, attempting to please other people. So I'm going to skip down to that second paragraph. In trying to please others, we turn our attention away from our own hearts, our own needs, and our own feelings. As we focus on what others want, we distract ourselves from the pain of not counting or being important and our fear of being rejected. Thoughts?
Oh my God, I have so many thoughts about people pleasing.
Let's hear them.
And people aren't going to like what I have to say about it, but people pleasing is one of the most selfish things that you can do.
Why?
Because if I'm doing something for somebody, I would say maybe not selfish, it's one of the most manipulative things you can do because you're giving somebody a false sense of love and then complaining about it on the backside.
Mm-hmm.
Like if people saw people please, like everybody's like, well, I'm a people pleaser because I just want everybody to be happy. No, no, you don't. You're people pleasing because of yourself and your selfish need to be liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're lying to that person and you're deceiving them into thinking that you actually want to do the thing for them. And then they hear you later complaining about it, or you blow up on them at another time, or I just do all these things for everybody all the time and nobody cares about me. No, that's you. That's your projection. And you're projecting it onto everybody else because you're a people pleaser. I can't stand people pleasing. Ugh, it makes me so like disgusted. It's
Yeah,
probably contempt. People pleasing, I become contemptuous towards people pleasing.
that's understandable. Yeah.
And it's because people do that. When people do that to me, I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't get to try to manipulate me now, saying that you did this for me, so now I owe you something.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid I was going to hurt your feelings, but you're not afraid of like how I actually feel about our relationship. It's fake. It's not even real.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a big problem with people pleasing.
Yeah. So can I read this example too
Oh
with
yeah, Renee and Diane.
Renee, who was a mail carrier, comes home with work and a very sore foot. He looks forward to removing his shoes and massaging his foot with oil as soon as he has kissed his wife, Diana, hello. When he gets inside, however, he sees immediately that Diana is in a bad mood. She is stomping around the kitchen and muttering to herself while fixing dinner, uncomfortable with her anger. Hang on. And afraid she'll take it out on him, Renee quickly starts setting the table. He ignores the pain in his foot and his disappointment in coming home to his wife's anger. Instead, he asks Diana cheerfully, how else can I help? She turns to him, holding an egg in each hand, and watches him for a few seconds. And then she says, you can invent a time machine so that we can start this crappy day over again. As she turns back towards the stove, she adds, and why the hell are you limping? So, and then it goes right into victim energy. Um, do you want to
What?
follow up with that before I do that?
I mean, there's so many things that I would do differently. One, I'm guessing that Renee probably is thinking that he's the reason why she's in a bad mood.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's now going through all of the things in his own head. I mean, this is codependency through and through. Like, I'm good if you're good, but I'm not good if you're not good. So if you're angry, I'm walking on eggshells instead of being like, my foot hurts, I'm going to sit down for a minute. Oh, well, I'm doing all this stuff in here, yada, yada, yada. Um, oh my gosh. Joyce Myers. talks about like her anger issues, and her husband is the stories that she tells about him, she would be pissed off doing trying to pay the bills and getting everything done and worried about everything, and he'd be in the living room playing with the kids, and she'd be like, don't you even care about our family, like nobody's paying the bills except for me, and he's she said he would look at me and be like, if you want to be angry and worried about the bills, then you're welcome to do that. But I don't have to choose to also be angry and worried about the bills. I'm going to enjoy playing and spending time with my children right now. If you would like to join us, you're more than welcome to. But you are going to be angry and miserable by yourself. I am not going to join you.
Yep.
Yes,
I love that.
that is, I hear you, and you have permission to act like that, but I am not going to engage in it or be a part of it
Mhm. Mhm.
because I am not responsible for how you feel and behave.
Right.
And you are not going to be responsible how I feel and
Mhm.
behave.
Mhm.
So, when she told that story, it made me think of this book immediately. And I was like, or maybe I read this and it made me think of that story immediately, whichever one, chicken or the egg came first. I don't know. But um, that is how we successfully cope and integrate and work with people.
Yeah, definitely. I think I know that's always been a struggle for me personally, just because of um, my history as a child surviving abuse was people please, because if you make them happy, then you won't get hurt, that sort of thing. And I think that's always been something that I've struggled with quite a bit. Um, and yeah, I mean, reading this book has been very eye-opening for me. This is the one I know. What was the one that we were talking about earlier that you said? Oh, it was emotionally healthy spirituality. You said was like your eye-opener book. I think this one's mine. So,
Hmm.
um, which it's my first time going through it. So, but it's yeah, it's really been pointing things out to me, and I think especially just in the last few weeks, it's been making me reevaluate myself deeply. Um,
All right. So, the victim energy. This is my favorite. This was my biggest um this was probably one of the most profound revelations that I ever had in healing from my past trauma. So, like
mhm.
PTSD, when I finally realized this, I would say the vast majority of my PTSD symptoms subsided. So,
Gotcha.
victim energy distracts us in three ways. First, our anger over being a victim distracts us from our deeper emotions. Second, the stories we write in our head about being a victim can themselves be profound distractors. And third, because victim energy is pervasive in our society and because it is usually socially acceptable to tell our stories of woe, we can readily share our victim energy with others. And when we do, we will often be rewarded for it with attention, sympathy, and sometimes empathy. Meanwhile, we distract ourselves from the very emotions we most need to feel if we are to heal. Woe is me. I do all of these things. Nobody appreciates me. Nobody loves me. What about me? What about me? What about me?
I realized when I was reading this too, it made me think of I won't name the parent, a parent who does this a lot. And um starting to see it in myself, and I was like, no, this you cannot become that. But
You
that
were
was
doing this just recently with your whole
I'm telling you,
recent
that
situation going through.
yeah, recent situation, and I really fell into that, and I think I surprised myself. Here I was thinking that I don't do that anymore, and I was like, well, that's apparently not the truth.
Sorry for being the friend that pointed that out to you.
No, I'm glad that you did. I needed it, truly.
Well, I
But
hear you, but I think you're being a little bit
of
harsh.
a bit.
And
Yeah.
you're making something about you that isn't about you right now, and this is not the time or the place, but I understand where you're coming from, and that makes sense. And
Yeah. And I think it was just um but just in the recent events of life, like there's been some things that happened that I was not prepared for. And um, I'm already starting to get emotional thinking about it. But it brought some stuff out of me that I just don't like. So this was
Gotta
definitely.
let that stuff out so you're aware that it's in there.
Mhm.
And the only way to get rid of the things that are in you is to get them out of you.
Yep.
Just not taking it out on the people around you.
Amen. I know. I know, girl. I know. And
And
so,
we're all guilty of it. Like, you're not alone. We all do it in our own different ways. It's just when you become aware of it, you're like, oh, I need to take accountability and be responsible for my actions and how I just came across.
yep. And I think I'm still struggling to understand some of it, like, because some of the things that we're dealing with are just really hard. So that's just been, I'm surprising myself, I think.
That you still have that in there. So you're not as perfect as you think you are.
Well, I don't think I'm perfect. I just thought I was over it. Like, I'm like, I really thought I went through the counseling and all that stuff and beat it.
They're just reminders that you're still human. And hey, once upon a time, you were going through this. So stop being so hard on the other person who's going through it now because you're annoyed or irritated that they're going through it and they haven't overcome it yet.
For
And then
sure.
you're up, slap of reality, projecting, and I mean it's the ego, that's pride. When you
Mhm.
start thinking, oh well, I'm over it. Like me walking around being like, oh yeah, I'm over my PTSD. No, I'm not. Do I recover much more quickly? Does it happen less frequently? Am I more consciously aware of it? Absolutely. But there are still things that happen that bring that out.
Mhm.
And then I have to deal with it in humility, which is what actually brings us closer together. If we all walk around never making any mistakes, like, what are you, the Stepford wives? Like, come on, that's not real. Those are robots. We're not robots. We're humans. We have feelings. We make mistakes. We make amends. We learn to rely on each other, even in the difficult times.
True story. You might have to talk for a minute so I can gather myself.
So, um, for me, the victim energy is the anytime I see myself as being anytime I choose to be offended by something, I'm making myself a victim.
Mm.
I'm stepping into victim energy. You know, if somebody's like, "Oh, you're this. You're just a da 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 da." And if I'm like, "No, I'm not. Don't say that about me." I just victimize myself to your opinion. Why am I going to be offended by what somebody else thinks about me? I think there's a reason why some people are and some people aren't. And I think it's identity.
Connected to something they've been called earlier in life or
Well, it's identity.
yeah,
If
believing something about themselves that or maybe they've told themselves that and then someone speaks it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it must be true." You know, or it's something that they've worried that is true and then yeah, basically same thing.
the root of all of this doesn't come from the people that we surround ourselves with. I don't think it's people at all in our lives that cause all of these issues for us. I
Right.
think the enemy, I think Satan knows exactly what to say and how to say it. And he uses us because we all walk in sin, so we're all susceptible to being manipulated by him.
It's true.
So when we stop looking at people as the enemy and we start looking at the enemy who's manipulating that person as the enemy, like, you know what? You can cuss me out all day long. You're still a child of God, and I have to accept that. So I can say, I'm not okay with how you're talking to me. It's not okay that you're doing this.
Mhm.
I have respect and dignity and esteem.
Yeah.
I'm a person. And that's what I kind of had to say to my neighbor. Like, you could come over here and scream at me all you want because you're pissed off that I asked you to turn your music down. I didn't even tell you. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't rude, but I'm a human being. And the way that you're talking to me is dehumanizing.
Yep. Yep.
So you don't have to like it, but you can come over here and say, you know what? I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
We're
I
going
was reading something yesterday about, I mean, no, it was in this book where, and it's almost like play by play of what happened with you and your neighbor. And
to.
it's at the very end where the lady says it happened. It's about dogs too, which is funny. That the fence that separated her neighbor's yard from hers, whenever her dogs were out, the neighbor would get really mad because this late, they were barking or whatever, and it would distract her and it would make her really upset. And then so she would say, "I'm sorry, have a nice day," and try not to let them out when her dogs are out there too. And at one point, she goes out and doesn't realize that her neighbor's dogs are out, and they all go running towards the fence at each other, and they all start bark, 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 bark. They're losing their minds. So she says, "All right, come on." And this lady comes out and she's like, "You beep, beep, beep," screaming cuss words at her. And she's like, "I'm so sorry. I'll get my dogs in. I didn't realize yours were out." And as she's calling her dogs to come inside, the other two dogs on the other side of the fence scale the fence and they get all the way up and then into the yard. And so now all the dogs are fighting and it's just absolute chaos. So she picks up her dogs, goes back in the house, and this lady's making her way into her backyard to, get her other two dogs. And she's screaming curse words at this woman. And instead of saying anything to her, she just locks the door and takes a deep breath. And she says, "Thank you, God, that I don't have that life, that my life is not her life." Um, and like, what a different side of the lawn to be on, like literally, like there's two ways to look at it. You could really engage in that, or you could just be like, nope, that is not going to be. I'm grateful that I don't have that anger or whatever it is, that perspective. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of that is because she could have easily said, "Oh, how could she call me that? Why could this happen? Blah, blah, blah."
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I'd have just left the dogs out there and been like, they're dogs. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, true. Let them tear each
Like
other
I
up.
said to my one neighbor, and he's like, you could, put a fence up in your yard. I said, or you could fix the hole in your own fence and you'd never have to worry about this happening again. Like, we're so quick to try. And so I have even an issue with that where I'm not going to apologize to my neighbor for something that's I'm not doing wrong.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, I'll bring my dogs inside my bed. Like, no, 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 no. Because to me, that's people pleasing.
right.
So the balance is, you know what? They're dogs. They're gonna bark at each other. They'll figure it out. Because even that my neighbors over here will come out because their dog runs up and down the fence line and is barking the whole time. If my dogs are ever in the backyard, that dog's like, "Rah, rah, rah." And Trigger and Thea come to the door like, we don't want to even deal with this dog. But they always come out and they're like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, they're dogs. Like,
Hmm.
they're dogs. Why are you apologizing because your dog is barking? That's what a dog does. Like,
Literally, yeah. That's
offended by it, you don't need to apologize. Now, if your dog came over here and bit me or something like that, yeah, maybe that's an issue. But like,
see,
for a dog,
that's
like, it just
I've
is.
been bit by a dog. I didn't say anything to them because I was a people pleaser.
I don't know. I'm just not, that's just not my cup of tea to be the one who's, I mean, I hear people all the time, like they'll walk past somebody who like backs up and they're like, oh, sorry. And I'm like, sorry, because you're walking down the hallway and this lady backed into you and now you're apologizing because you happen to be in the existence of her. Like, just like, you know, I
Yeah,
think our culture throws the sorry word around so
they do.
flippantly that it like the meaning of an apology has lost what it's meant for. I'm sorry. I'm
Exactly.
sorry. Like, there's a reason why we say excuse me, not I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What
For
are you
some.
apologizing for being in the same locker room as me? Like, why
And
did
I
it deems me the locker room queen and you have to apologize for being in my way? Like, we're both here coexisting.
and I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel like women do it more
Oh yeah.
because in a public setting or whatever, like we apologize to each other or for any sort of um inconvenience or whatever it is. And it might not even be an inconvenience. It's just for not following social protocol, like unspoken rules or something, walking past each other, barely brushing against each other. Oh, I'm sorry. Like just weird
Or I'm
things.
touching you because, like, I have leprosy and I could kill you if I for like this. I don't. The whole "I'm sorry" thing. That topic will get me. I could talk about that for a while.
I know, it's just the leprosy comment.
Don't
Um,
touch me with your skin. How dare you? Right, Karen. I'm just like
Not all Karens are bad. Your mom's really
it's the enabling, I think of it. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Um,
yeah. I get that a lot from students too, and I'm always the first one to say, "What are you apologizing for?" Like, yeah, because if I'm walking past them and they're literally just sitting there and I'm trying to go between rows of tables and they're like, "Oh, sorry." I'm like, "For what?" Like I can move by, like, and then they'll scoot their chair in so far. I'm like, "Girl, I'm not that fat. Like, I know I can get through, but it's just, yeah, it's one of those things too where it's,
that's the victim energy.
mhm,
That's a distractor.
what is which part of it?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm a
Yeah.
victim to what? Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I used to have a former friend who literally that's all she would do was say I'm sorry when we first started hanging, like when I first met her. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like, why are you constantly apologizing?
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't get it. Well, then I come to find out she's like a manipulator. Like, she's one of those people that will create a problem so she can solve it and then be the hero.
Ick.
So we're not friends anymore.
Mhm.
But
So underneath the willingness portion of this, um, which falls under victim energy, it she Nancy is the author. I keep saying she. So our distractors prevent us from having to experience many of our feelings. They also prevent us from having to experience our discomfort about those feelings. So I circled distractors and I listed like all of the things that distract me, which mostly from that previous page.
mhm,
Um, and then it says healing begins when we willingly walk into our emotions and our discomfort about them, and then stay with all the feelings long enough to name them and work with them.
yeah.
I think that's probably the scariest step for a lot of people who have been people pleasers their whole life or victim energy. That's a hard thing to do, but it's freeing.
Why do you think it's hard?
I think because we are, well, at least for myself, um, being honest with others, being honest with myself about how I feel about something used to result in punishment. And so there was like a fear factor there. Um, and it feels unsafe because growing up I was safer not speaking like how something really made me feel versus being honest about it because I would be screamed at for it. So, and I think that's been an eye-opening thing too because again, like here I thought like
Was it safer or was it more comfortable?
I think safer than um no, it was definitely a safety thing
Okay.
because I can be uncomfortable, but if it goes to a certain depth, a certain root or reminds me of something, then that becomes more like a fear response. So, and that's something that I'm working on. Something that I'm trying to be better at.
And I think it's really different too for kids versus adults. Like, as children, we really don't have a lot of power and control over our own lives.
Mm.
But as adults, we do. So avoiding your feelings and not going there is not a safety issue as an adult. You're just telling yourself that way. It's an uncomfortable thing.
Mhm.
So what once was a safety issue, I now have to remind myself I'm not 5 years old. Nobody's gonna beat me. Yelling at me, like, you can yell at me, I can walk away from that. I can disengage from that. Like, I'm not stuck here listening to it. So what once was, and that's what I had to learn about the victim. mentality where God was like, you were a victim at one point in your life, but you aren't anymore. But you're still operating and making decisions and life choices and communicating and feeling as if you're still that victimized child.
Mhm.
And that is your responsibility to deal with.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Agreed.
me. You can either choose to continue to be a victim or you can choose to become victorious over this. And that's when I was like, well, how do I do that? And that's the journey. That's the purge, the wall. That's the work.
Mhm.
And you said, I think it's really hard for people to do this. I think it's hard for people to do this because means you have to be intentional and you have to make the time and commitment to do that.
Yep. 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 And I think that's, um, well, and this is kind of skipping to the end and we can come back. But there was a section in that very last chapter. Let's see if I can find it, where it talks about it's uncomfortable for a small period of time, but creating the life you want takes courage, determination, and a commitment to heal and to change it,
Mhm.
which is really true. Um, and just noticing the multiple ways and multiple forms of the multiple myths and like reminding yourself of those. And I think that's what I'm going to have to go back and do, is reread them. And then by doing that, you find freedom from pain and imprisonment of past events, endless repetition, freedom from shame, freedom from the myths and principles and lies of the end, and to live in the present with all its possibility. So a lot of that, I mean, I like how they tie it back up. They put it back together. I think that was it ends it on a really strong note. Not to skip over those because I don't want to, but it talks about the benefit of walking through that and like that's going through the wall, right? That's and through the purge, like you said. But also
I
remember the
purge.
what?
I refer to it as the purge. I don't know if I've read that with anybody else, like who talks about the wall and the wilderness, like Brene Brown's wilderness, and Peter Scazzero talks about the wall. Jessica Conrad refers to it as the purge because you really are purging all
Mhm,
of your faulty ways of thinking, all of your irrational, victimized mentality, thoughts, and belief system, and you're disrupting what has become the norm.
mhm. Yep.
And you are being purged into purity to be refined.
Mhm. And I don't think that
It's like when you purge your house, you clean out all the junk, you get rid of the stuff that's been sitting there that you don't need, but it's just taking up space. Like,
we
you gotta
need.
purge your old emotions and traumas.
Yeah, maybe I should just attach a label to all the stuff in my house and this will be like a physical representation of it, but
Yeah.
'cause we do need to have a yard sale. But yeah, I think that it was just a really profound idea for me. I'm trying to find the page that we were on.
Well, I want to go into chapter 11 when others touch our wounds. So, chapter 10 talks about how everyday narcissism diminishes our relationships. I think we're all pretty aware of, everyday narcissism is the opposite of unconditional love. Being loved for just being who we are without qualification or judgment. As children, all of us desired this unconditional love. Sadly, because of our parents, Ian, most of us didn't get it. As a result, most adults don't know what it feels like in our bodies to be loved unconditionally. Um, and when we operate out of our EN, we aren't loving people and their mistakes. We're
Mm,
trying to make them not make mistakes, and that's not love.
right.
But chapter 11, quickly, when others touch our wounds, to me, the most simple um, depiction of this is what I've heard or read in the past is it's like having a splinter and you don't do anything about the splinter. You don't try to get the splinter out of your finger or your arm or your leg or whatever it is. But every time somebody bumps up against that splinter, you get pissed off at them for touching it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we make people responsible for our triggers. Well, you're triggering me, so you can't do that. No, yeah, they can. You need to get rid of your buttons that you say people keep pushing. Because the only way for people to stop pushing your buttons is for you to get rid of them. Stop having all these buttons that people push.
Yep, yep. And that's, I think this is part of year in 11. It says, we also wound each other accidentally. Think of a time when you said or did something innocuous and suddenly the person you were with went ballistic on you. What likely happened? Without realizing it, you stepped on one of the person's EN wounds. And now think of a time when someone said or did something that they felt was innocuous. Am I saying that right? I don't
Yep.
know. And you suddenly went ballistic on them. They likely triggered one of your own EN wounds. Here are some of the common over the top things that people do when their EN wounds get triggered. Become very angry, they cry, they blame the other person for how miserable their life is, all the problems they have, blame the other person for being rude, thoughtless, uncaring, mean spirited, heartless, stupid, blame themselves. I knew I shouldn't have let someone like you drive me to work. I'm such a fool. They pout, they seethe, they become quiet or withdrawn. They refuse to speak or make eye contact, pretend not to hear, they yell, and they become physically violent. So, the example, moving into that Clarissa and Drew. Let's consider an ordinary couple, Clarissa and Drew. When Drew inadvertently steps on one of Clarissa's EN wounds, she usually responds in one of the ways listed earlier. That response, in turn, may trigger one of Drew's EN wounds. Drew then typically responds by deliberately poking another one of Clarissa's EN wounds, and the interaction soon escalates into a shouting match or a passive aggressive, quiet seething, or occasionally physical violence. Yet, as even as the conflict escalates, neither person has a clue about what is happening or why their seemingly ordinary conversation turns into something so toxic. Each partner is convinced that the other is entirely to blame. In the end, nothing ever gets resolved, and both people are more wounded than ever. So, I highlighted the section below when she starts to explain this. Almost always, it turns out that the fight was not actually about something small; it was about triggering each other's unhealed childhood wounds. So both people were operating from their EN, and each was trying desperately to be heard or cared for or loved or valued. Yet each one stepped on repeatedly the other one's wounds, which is very interesting. And
Yeah, I would not say that it's your responsibility to not step on the other person's wounds. It is your responsibility to not be critical and condescending and disrespectful. But yeah, how am I supposed to know what somebody's everyday narcissistic wounds are?
no,
Be all
it's
knowing and all powerful, and that's like we're asking each other to be God for each other instead of being like, you know what, that really hurt my feelings when you said that.
yeah, and you're not wearing a sign that says "Here are my wounds." Like it's not that apparent, it's going to happen, but um and that's what she says. It is in such cases the solution is not just better communication techniques. It's for each person to look at, recognize, and name their own wounds. That means fully naming and feeling their emotions, recognizing and naming any needs that are not getting met, and then finding a way to meet those needs on their own.
Which is a improved form of communication. So I don't know why she says it's not just about that is a form of communication.
Yeah, definitely.
So
And resolving things between.
which is why I often will have clients read nonviolent communication after this book. Like now that you understand what your underlying root, things that pull out these emotional reactions from you, now you have to learn how to say, when you said blank, I felt blank. What I need from you, which is usually what our values are, our needs are linked to our values.
Mhm.
So next time, can you be specific in a request or setting a boundary? Most of the time, people communicate very vaguely. You're being disrespectful. If I don't think I'm being disrespectful, you telling me that isn't going to change anything. Like, how am I being disrespectful? Well, if you don't know, then I'm not going to tell you. Okay. Well, then we don't need to be friends because I'm not going to walk on eggshells around you, especially if you're thinking that I'm just supposed to read your mind and guess what bothers you.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep, and that's isn't that a form of emotion manipulation anyways? Like if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you, like, well then you don't really want to resolve anything. Like, like
and be right. Like that's the whole like being right versus wrong versus are we actually trying to resolve the problem or are we just stroking our egos here?
Right. Is it a power struggle or what?
Yeah.
So the 12th chapter talks about creating a healing environment. And I highlighted the three things to help support the healing process. You can create your own ideal healing environment through three moment by moment practices. Live in present time, stop the story that you're writing in your head, and have non attachment.
Okay.
So, truth be told, I just finished this chapter like today. So, I'm still,
So living in the present moment are like those grounding techniques. It's not saying, well, all of these things from the past are, it's, hey, what you did just now is what the problem is. Well, you did da da da. That is irrelevant to what's happening right now.
mhm,
Like you can't deflect from your behavior by something that happened in the past, and that's what you're thinking. So now you're projecting that onto this situation. Like, I understand that was painful, but we're here right now, and this is what we're trying to resolve. So how do we resolve this?
right. Yep. And so, and that's part of that living in present time. Instead, we can live in the moment, the only time we can really do anything about it, and the only time in which we have the power to make choices, which I really like that. I highlighted that because that's so true. You can't undo what's already been done, but you can make a decision for what needs to be done now. Am I okay right now? When you live in present time, you can check in with yourself by asking yourself these questions. Am I okay right now? If so, simply stay in the present. And two, is there anything else I can or need to do right now to improve things? And if so, what is the next step? And then take that next step. If nothing needs to be done, simply return to the present time. So that's a grounding technique, right? Or like a more of a, I don't know.
Grounding techniques are literally grounding, touching the earth.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like that questions and things like that also were like part of mindfulness or meditation or,
Yeah, mindfulness is grounding is a part of mindfulness.
okay.
But like grounding yourself is like, okay, squeeze, release. Like I'm grounding myself. I'm here, putting a hot fireball candy in your mouth, grounds you to the present moment. Like it brings you here. So it's using physical objects to keep you in the present moment.
Yeah.
Progressive muscle relaxation,
I
walking
feel like,
outside, feeling with the ground, laying on the earth. Like those are grounding techniques.
okay. So that's part one of three things. And then the second is stop the story that you're writing in your head. The
Yeah.
story writing process is both natural and unavoidable. What we can avoid, however, is taking stories seriously. And this made me kind of laugh. Remember Marcia, the woman who wrote a story in her head about being alone on Christmas, and on her way to work, she was enjoying a beautiful fall day. She made herself cry by just making up a mental story of loneliness. Loneliness. When you catch yourself writing a story in your head, smile, acknowledge what you're doing, and then mentally stop it.
So there's a thought stopping technique that actually some professionals think it's garbage, like it doesn't really work or whatever. But I've had too many clients be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that really works. And it's like, yeah, you stop. Grounding, stop. That's grounding. I'm bringing me back here. Stop.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Snapping a rubber band on your wrist, bring it back.
Mhm.
So our narratives cause us the most problems. So knowing what your narrative is, and this is understanding what your irrational core beliefs are. When this happens, what's it make you think of? Well, back when my dad used to da 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 da. Okay, so that's the narrative. What's the false attachment to that? What is that? What makes you a victim to that? You
Mhm.
have to identify those things. You have to become aware that you are victimizing yourself to certain situations and scenarios.
Yep. And so, and that's what it also says when you catch yourself, um, if the story is created out of fear, anger, or sadness, remind yourself that nothing has actually happened. All you did was write a mental story that frightened and angered or saddened you. And
Hmm.
once you realize you are doing what you are doing, come back to the present. Pay attention to where you are right now in your car. I'm sorry, at your job, walking the dog, eating. Look at what is around you. Feel your way back to your body. Note any sounds, smells, tastes, or other sensations and get back into what is actually going on. And then enjoy the moment of freedom for writing stories in your head and the misery that they can create. So,
Yeah. So the grounding is your five senses. Figure out which of your five senses has the most profound and powerful impact on you and your emotions, because those are also going to be the ones that are the most easily triggered.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I see that.
And then non-attachment.
So, non-attachment may be the most difficult tool to learn because most of us learn to live in some form of attachment. We're attached to the car we drive, or how much money we make, or home, or the neighborhood we live in. And many of us even come to believe that things we're attached to define who we are. One of the central tenets of Buddhism is that such a view of who we are is a delusion. Another common form of attachment involves wanting particular outcomes to occur, getting a job, having the perfect party, getting into our preferred college. Often we're so attached to a particular person or dream or outcome that we choose to overlook some clear warning signs. Many people
Red
who
flags, because you slept with him before you were ready.
this is why we wait. Many people who come into, and she's a therapist, my therapy office are unhappy in their marriages. Often they begin telling me about their partner's drinking, anger, spending, criticizing, or some other negative trait. I ask them if they saw any warning signs of this behavior when they were dating, or if their other inner wisdom had suggested at the time that there might be problems. Usually the answer is yes. However, they're so attached to the person or to getting married that they chose to ignore them. And now they are living with the visible, predictable problem.
Yes, this happens all the time. And I ask that question all the time. Well, did he do this when you were dating? Well, yeah, but I thought it would change once we got married.
Nope.
Okay, did it? No. So why are you mad? Because it should have changed. So are you mad at yourself for believing something that was not true? And you're projecting and blaming that person for being still who they were the day that they met you? You made a wrong choice.
Mm-hmm.
You need to take responsibility for your choice and you need to learn how to live with your choice instead of trying to make the other person change.
Yep. Yep.
You need to do something different. And I've had to say that where I'm like, okay, so then what do you think the outcome is? Well, what am I just supposed to leave? I'm like, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going to do that. Okay, well then why did you say it? Because it's obviously an option. It's obviously something you thought about. And if that's not an option, stop thinking about it and start thinking about what your actual options are going to be. Otherwise, you're creating your own cognitive dissonance.
Mm. Yep. And that's the story that you write in your head, right? That's
Yep.
part of non-attachment.
So,
Um, so in
next, we have like
non-attachment,
anxious or avoidant attachments.
anxious or avoidant.
Like the attachment theory, right? So we have secure attachments, we have anxious attachments, we have avoidant attachments, and then we have disorganized attachments, which is like people with borderline personality disorder typically have those. I love you, I hate you. I love you,
Mm.
go away. Don't leave me. I hate you. And
Isn't
it's
that a book?
back and forth.
Isn't that a book? I think I saw it on yourself. The
Oh
hate you.
yeah, I love you, don't I hate you, don't leave me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's like this sequential book to the borderline personality disorder, like understanding borderline personality disorder.
Okay. Well.
And people with BPD, like you need to be alone.
Mhm.
You're so afraid of being alone that you destroy every relationship you have because you tell yourself you deserve to be alone. And that's what's creating this problem. So just go be alone and see what it's like. Stop being attached and dependent on others.
Mhm. And that's similar to like that opening line in the next page. Non-attachment is letting go of trying to control the outcome or the direction things may take. It's you living with letting things unfold as they may, trusting that you will be guided. And if you pay attention, it will all be well. Letting go of this imaginary control is challenging and scary at first. It also means learning to approach your choices in a different way. Instead of simply trying to wrest control of the situation, you often need to research other options, seek advice, and be realistic about the possible consequences of any choice you make. And you need to accept the disappointment if you're guided in a different or unexpected direction if things don't go the way you hoped.
Mhm.
So I think I know for me, that's something I'm working on. Um, but if I could see how I think feel like I see this in other people too, how that people who are hell bent on control, like that's what makes them feel secure. So letting go of some of those things is probably really hard. But I know that sometimes the outcome, or often the outcome, is just peace, and it's unexpected peace, but it's peace.
Mhm. Be anxious for nothing, and in all things, through prayer, petition, and with a thankful heart, make your requests known to God. And it is His peace that surpasses all understanding. So there's a part of me that is like, there are so many secular teachings about how to be well, how to overcome these things. But true liberation doesn't come without God.
Mhm.
Because you're either enslaved to this world or you are a servant of the Lord. And
Mhm.
anytime you're enslaved, you will feel it.
Yep.
The shackles are on. Whether you're making millions of dollars and you travel all over the place, at the something inside of you feels shackled.
Mhm.
We get stuck and we idolize and we become dependent upon things that, which is why God tells us don't be dependent on anything of this world.
Yep. 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 So,
And
and as you
last chap-
practice, what?
I was going to say the last chapter, but
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
everyday forgiveness. This is probably, I only have like 10 more minutes, so we got to buckle down.
Okay.
Um, Forgiveness is letting go of the hope that the past can be changed. Um, that's Oprah's definition. My definition of forgiveness is letting go of the emotion that's attached to the offense and loving that person regardless. You don't have to be in relation with them. You don't have to reconcile. You don't have to choose to continue to be around them all the time, especially if it's a repeat offense. But forgiveness is like, you know what? I'm going to let that go. I forgive you for saying that. I forgive you for doing that. Um, and now it taught me that there might be a boundary I need to put in place that I was unaware of.
Mhm. Yep. And I think I already read some of this earlier, but final words of hope, it says, um, Ian is everywhere in our culture. So now that you've become aware of it, and as you see it at work, at family gatherings and places of worship, and schools, at restaurants, and the media, everywhere. One clue: when you hear gossip or whining or complaining, you're probably observing someone reacting from their EN. Although it pervades our lives, it need not control them. As you heal your own EN, your life will improve. You will not feel hurt as often, and when you are hurt, it will be more like a scratch than a knife wound. So you will see the way people treat you is mostly about them and their choices and not you.
And scratches still hurt. We don't just ignore them and be like, oh, little scratch. I mean, sometimes I think I look down and I'm like, huh, where did that come from? I don't remember that. But most of the time, scratches still hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't hurt nearly as much as
A
a
stab.
knife stabbing you. Yeah. But you know, forgiveness, forgive. You have an endless, we are given, God gives us forgiveness as a gift, not as a command.
Yep.
One of the
That's
10 commandments wasn't you must forgive or you will go to hell. You know, like forgiveness is a gift that he said you need this. You have an endless supply of it. It will protect you and keep you young and healthy and moving forward and optimistic and grounded. Forgive people.
mhm.
Don't hold on to the grudge. Otherwise, you'll become like my neighbor next door, Nancy, who thinks that her neighbors are out to get her. She thinks that I purposely take my dogs into her yard and teach them to pee on her grass. which she just has dead grass. Her whole yard is dead. I'm like, if my dogs pee in your yard, you will see a perfect brown circle of dead grass because that's just what happens.
Oh
Not
my god.
well, then it's, did you put garbage on my back porch? No, I don't have time to come into your yard. I'm not like a teenager. Like, I'm guessing some of these things happened to her. The neighbor on the other side, their kids were playing on a dirt mound and she was like, they're going to get hurt. You shouldn't let your kids do that. So they finally put up a privacy fence to keep her away. Now she's pissed off because his water gutters flow into her yard from his roof. He's
Mhm.
doing it on purpose. He purposely put his house I'm like, he didn't build his house. He bought the house. What are you talking about? I'm putting trash on your back porch, but she has been, from the day that she moved in, she has complained about her husband. She has called him worthless and useless and all of these things. And I saw it with my own grandmother. It's years and years and years and years and years of bitterness. Just
Mm.
bottling it up, bottling it up, bottling, complain, complain. Like, no, no, it's going to kill you. It makes
Mhm.
you delusional. It causes strokes. It causes heart attacks, anger, bitterness. All of that stuff does is it kills your body. Forgiveness heals your body.
Amen.
Forgive, 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 forgive. As much as you possibly can, choose to let it go. And it makes me think back to the I'm sorry. I forgive you. Every time somebody says I'm sorry, I'm going to start saying that. I forgive you. They'll be like, why? I don't know. Why did you say you're sorry? Usually, I forgive you is like the response to I'm sorry. So I forgive you. I forgive you. Maybe it's just a reminder that we need to learn how to say I forgive you more often.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
Powerful, powerful ending statement there.
all right. So everybody just become aware of your everyday narcissism. You're Ian. Communicate differently. Change whatever it is that you're telling yourself that's making you a victim to every circumstance under the sun. Pain and suffering is a part of life. It's not going anywhere. Becoming pissed off and depressed about it isn't going to change it. It's still going to be there. You're just going to be miserable. Like, enjoy the present moment as much as you can. Live in the present moment. If you can help, help. But complaining about it and getting upset about things that you can't control, like, isn't going to change that they're going away. It will be there.
Mhm. True story.
So
You want me to close it in prayer?
let's do it.
Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to discuss today. We thank you for the epiphanies and the information we got from the Ian book. We ask that you will bless our listeners and that you will help it to apply to their lives in some way. And that as we move forward into the next book, that you would protect and provide joy and healing for all who are a part of our podcast and all the people in the world who are in need of it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. We'll see you guys. We're not going to do the book club for a while because I am in my doctorate degree again and I have 6 other books to read every week and I just don't have time for that. But what we do want is to have volunteers who would like to maybe bring a problem that they're going through and have an open discussion about how to coach, how to get coached through that. So if you want to do that, reach out. We'll start maybe.
And it doesn't have to be like deeply, deeply personal. It could be a problem at work, a problem with parenting. It could be, we have two different skill sets here that we can combine and have a decent conversation over. So please feel free to bring your questions.
Helpful to vent and get it off your chest and to hear alternative perspectives about what you're going through because you're telling yourself a story and probably only a portion of it is true.
Yep,
So,
very true.
for listening, we love you guys. We're praying for you. And we will see and hear from you soon.
Bye.